Clemson Tigers are back on the practice field, of course, for August camp, preparing for their ACC opener against Duke, and of course, a run at another ACC championship. We got Ryan Cantor on the line, and you can find Ryan right here on YouTube. Just search Ryan's channel, Ryan Cantor. There you see it, or right there, talking Clemson athletics, right here on YouTube. Ryan, how you doing tonight?
Good. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Let's start with a Clemson passing attack that's led by Cade Klubnik, who got some valuable playing time, of course, last year. Thrown into the fire against Notre Dame, thrown into the fire in a game against Syracuse in the second half when they were down by a couple of scores. And then, of course, a full measure against Tennessee in the Orange Bowl. So Cade Klubnik and a receiving core that Clemson fans would like to see get back to Clemson standard.
Yeah, I mean, for the last 2 years, I've been saying more than anything, it's the wide receivers. And then, he comes in for that ACC championship game, and suddenly those receivers who had struggled, they look great. And I thought, oh, heck, this is much, I'm completely wrong, thrilled to be wrong. All those receivers that I thought weren't good are great. It's actually been DJ Uiagalelei the whole time. This is fantastic, a best case scenario. But then in the Tennessee game, you kind of see that that's not totally the case. You see that, Cade's not an immediate savior. And so I think Cade is definitely an upgrade and is going to help a lot. I also think Garrett Riley coming in as the new offensive coordinator from TCU is going to help a ton. But this wide receiver group still has a lot to improve. Bo Collins is a guy they're counting on to be their number one outside threat. He strung together 3, 4, 5 games of looking like that, looking like a number one guy at a time, but never more than that. He gets banged up, he disappears. They really need him to be that guy. Antonio Williams, who was awesome as a freshman. I think he's poised to have more of a sophomore surge, as Dabo says, than a sophomore slump. So they've got one good receiver that I think they could feel good about counting on. But is Bo Collins going to step up? Adam Randall was a big-time recruit who came in as a freshman, but he tore his ACL before last year and then didn't do much, didn't really even have a moment where he flashed. They say he wasn't 100%. They say he looks great in camp and all that after a few days, but how much stock do you put into that? So I think that's the one piece we just don't know about. If those receivers are good, if they've taken the step, if they stay healthy, this offense can be great. I think that's just a big question.
So, Ryan, there's a lot of considerations to be made about what to expect out of the passing offense, because on one hand, you've got two extremely talented backs, so the running game is going to be strong. So you're not going to have to be super reliant on a passing attack, but you do have Garrett Riley coming in with a lot of passing concepts from a Sonny Dykes offense. So statistically, or however you want to frame it, what does an effective passing attack look like this season for Clemson?
Well, TCU, their top 2 running backs combined for 2,000 rushing yards, which is pretty incredible. Clemson has not done that since Etienne left. And it's really since 2019, so not even this last year. So they're going to run the ball too. But I think this passing game, could Cade Klubnik throw for 3,000 yards, 25 touchdowns? I think the wide receivers are slightly above average for an ACC team. I don't think they have to be the absolute best or anything like that, but if they're slightly above average, I think that's all very attainable. The issue was twofold. Teams knew, particularly down the stretch, kind of Syracuse and post-Syracuse, that they couldn't effectively pass the ball. This came out more than ever against South Carolina, and so they stacked the box. Now, not all those teams that stacked the box necessarily could stop the run, even while that was their sole goal, right? But offensive coordinator Streeter said, hey, I got to take what they're giving me and have my struggling quarterback pass it to a beleaguered wide receiver core. And it went terrible. So I think it's going to be a lot better in so much that I think Garrett Riley isn't going to let defenses dictate to him. I don't think this passing offense has to be elite, but you have to fear that at some point they could hit some big plays. Garrett Riley, that TCU team, they were number one nationally in 50-plus yard plays. Clemson doesn't even have to do that. You just have to believe it could maybe possibly happen. They were 72nd, Clemson was, in 50-plus yard plays. So teams just, what are you going to do? Hit me on a 7-yard out route? What's the worst that could happen? I'm going to stack the box. So I think it's just creating that possibility even really opens things up.
And I'm sure Will Shipley's in favor of all that because even stacking the box, he gained 1,200 yards and scored 15 touchdowns. And Phil Maffa was, of course, a really capable, more than capable complement. So the running game, while the passing game doesn't have to be elite, does the running game have to be elite? And is it elite?
Well, it wasn't last year. They weren't top 40 in rushing yards per game. So I don't think it's fair to call elite. And Clemson fans want to because you got two backs and it was way better than the passing offense. Can they get there this year? I think they absolutely can. A lot of it was a couple things. One, they'd get away from it whenever the box got stacked, even if it was still working. The second thing is the boxes were getting stacked. I do think that Shipley and Maffa could take another step. They're both excellent, but I think they could be elite. And that thing that they need is turn those 15, 20, 25-yard plays, turn them into 50, 60-yard plays. Just that little half step. And you can get that in conditioning. You can get faster. And so I think they have the part to play. They're excellent. That's not even a little bit of a slide at them, but I think they could elevate their game. I think the offensive line, which returns 4 starters, presumably without shifting around positions, it seems like that's always the case. Whenever Clemson brings back 3-4 starters, they're all in new positions anyway. It's looking like they'll bring back 4 starters all at the same position and just plug in Tristan Lee at left tackle, a former 5-star. And if that doesn't work, it sounds like Colin Sadler could plug in there. So it sounds like you're going to bring back a ton of experience there. You have a better quarterback, and the wide receivers, at least right now, are healthy, but they weren't even healthy last year at this time. So I think there's a lot of reasons to think the rushing game can be elite, but I would not say it was there last year. Certainly wasn't statistically.